All right, so today we're going to tear apart this really fascinating organizational model for building a community that's, well, deeply engaged. We're looking at a group called the RAMPAGE Outreach Center, or the ROC. And just to be clear, this isn't a promotion, it's a case study. We want to get under the hood and see the architecture they use to build a movement, not just an audience. And that right there is the big question we're trying to answer here. You know, in a world that's all about clicks and views and just counting heads in a room, what does it actually take to create a structure where every single person is an active part of the mission? A multiplier, even. This is the exact challenge the ROC's model is trying to solve. So let's dive in and look at how they think. So what is the ROC, really? Well, if you look at their own materials, it's clear their main goal isn't just a weekly get-together. It's all about forming what they call disciples of Jesus who live inside of a very specific framework. Right away, that tells you they're playing a different game than a lot of other organizations. And boom, this quote right here is their whole mission in a nutshell. It's a fundamental shift in thinking, right? It's not about an event you go to for an hour a week. It's about an identity that you live out 24/7. This one idea is the bedrock for every single system and structure they've built. Okay, so to really get how this whole thing works, you've got to start with the smallest piece, right? The individual member. And they have this incredibly specific, written down definition of what an ideal member, what they call a rampage disciple, is supposed to look and act like. It's not fuzzy at all. They literally call it their organizational DNA. And here it is, Rampage. Now, this isn't just some catchy name they cooked up. It's basically a job description. Every single word in this acronym lays out a core part of a member's identity and what they're supposed to be doing. It's a constant reminder of why they're all there. So let's break that down real quick. First, you've got redeemed. That sets a common starting point, a shared identity for everyone. Second is making progress. This builds in the idea that you're always supposed to be growing, and you do it with other people. And finally, advancing God's expectations. This is the action part, the outward mission. So the takeaways is huge. Every single member is expected to be saved, growing, and on mission. No exceptions. Okay, so if the Rampage acronym is the what, then what about the how? How do they actually do all this? Well, that brings us to what they call their operating system. It's the practical framework they use to make that identity a reality. They call it the 3 C's, and it's the engine that drives everything. Now, what's so smart about this is how cleanly these 3 pillars connect right back to that rampage definition we just saw. Communion is all the personal, inward stuff. Community is how you grow with others, how you're held accountable. And commission is the outward focus, the work you do together. Basically, every single thing a member does is designed to fit into one of these 3 buckets. All right, so having a defined member and an operating system, that all sounds great in theory, right? But how do you put it into practice? Next up, we're going to look at the actual journey a new person is guided on. It's a really structured path that takes them from day 1 all the way to becoming a multiplier themselves. This is their 1-year roadmap, and as you can see, it is laid out so clearly. It's broken into 4 quarters. Quarter 1 is all foundational, figuring out your identity. Q2 is formative, it's about building character. In Q3, things get functional, you start focusing on the mission. And Q4, well, it's all about being reproductive, training that person to now go and lead someone else through the same exact process. It's a clear, repeatable pipeline. And here's the secret sauce that makes that whole roadmap actually work. It's not just a class you take, it's a culture that's built on these repeating behaviors, or what they call rhythms. You've got daily personal habits, you've got weekly small groups, like these accountability groups called triads, and service groups called missional communities. Then you have the bigger monthly gatherings, and so on. It's the consistency of these rhythms that really pushes the whole process forward. Okay, so that's the journey for one person. But what about the whole organization? How does this thing grow? How does it replicate? Well, they have a playbook for that too, and it's just as deliberate. But before we get into their playbook, you have to see this quote, because this right here is their entire philosophy on growth. Culture first, crowd second. They're convinced that if that core DNA, the rampage definition, the 3 C's, the rhythms, isn't totally solid in a small group of people first, then any kind of big public growth is just going to fall apart. And here is their 5-phase plan. Just look how methodical this is. Phase 1 is completely internal, just building a core team of maybe 6 to 12 people. Phase 2 is a soft launch, and it's by invitation only. It's not until phase 3 that they actually go public. And from there, the last two phases are all about one thing: multiplication, expanding those small groups and sending out new leaders to start the process all over again. It's all about depth before breadth. So this is where it gets really interesting. How do you know if you're winning? This slide is fascinating because it shows how different their scorecard is. They aren't obsessing over attendance numbers or the size of their budget. Instead, they're trying to measure things like transformation, obedience stories, and multiplication. That completely changes what a win even means for the organization. And here are their actual KPIs, what they call their launch health metrics. Again, just notice what's at the top of the list. It's not how many people showed up, it's what percentage of our people are actually in these small weekly groups. They're literally tracking stories of life change and how many new leaders are being trained up. The data they track actually reflects their mission. And we'll leave you with this final quote because it just wraps everything up perfectly. Their goal isn't to accumulate people, it's to distribute them. The entire system, from the definition of a member, to the operating system, to the launch plan, it's all designed to be an engine that develops people and then sends them out. And that raises a pretty powerful question for any organization, doesn't it? Is your system designed to gather, or is it designed to send?